I have played 100 days of Palworld in hopes of answering one simple question. Is it worth it? Today, I'll be doing a deep dive into what made Wildcard and Game Freak's Miracle Child so special. I'll also address all the major concerns people have surrounding the game so you can make an educated decision for yourself. Is Palworld worth the $30? Let's see. How Palworld came to be isn't all that important in the grand scheme of this discussion, but there are two important things of note. Pocket Pair, the development company that made Palworld, has never in the 3 years of Palworld's development been sued by Game Freak, the owners of Pokemon. A lot of skeptics are hesitant to buy this game because they have somehow convinced themselves that it will be taken down due to copyright infringement. They're scared that right after they spend their hard-earned $30, it'll be gone in the blink of an eye. I can confidently say that this concern isn't reasonable. Like I mentioned previously, Palworld has been in development for years now, and Game Freak has never filed anything against Pocket Pair in hopes of preventing Palworld from reaching the market. The very basic explanation for Game Freak's lack of legal pursuit is simple. There's nothing to pursue. The catching of creatures in an open world format isn't owned by Pokemon. Just the name Pokemon is trademarked. If you want a more detailed explanation for why this is, I'll put a link to a fantastic video covering this topic in the description down below. With that concern out of the way, the other main concern with regards to Pocket Pair's history is how they have handled their previous games. This feeling stems from how bad they are at updating their other titles in meaningful ways. One example is Craftopia, a jarringly similar game to Palworld, which is considered unfinished by a large portion of that game's community after being out for multiple years. The other game that I'll mention is Overdungeon, which was abandoned early on in pursuit of a new game. Both of these games have had success to a certain degree in the past, and players have a right to be skeptical of Palworld's capability to keep up with demand in Palworld. To be completely honest, this is a massive concern for me as well. As an ARC player, I know better than most how it feels to be constantly screwed over with false promises over the course of many years. I understand that the roadmap that was released for this game looks amazing, but I'm in the see it when you believe it group of thinking, and hope that Pocket Pair follows through on their promises in a timely fashion. I think it goes without saying that Palworld takes a lot of inspiration from other games. My initial stance after seeing it blow up was that it was a complete cash grab. I think everyone doubted its quality to an extent for that reason. Luckily, this game overcame the doubts surrounding it, but how did it become so popular so fast? Well, this is where my near 150 days of experience in the game comes in handy. Palworld is exactly what Pokemon and ARC fans have been looking for. It's a fun game to play and explore. It isn't riddled with game-breaking bugs, and it has a solid amount of grinding involved, which makes you feel like you're earning your progression. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, the game has a very promising roadmap where they plan on adding in PvP, raids, and even more cool features and pals. The point I'm trying to make is, there's just so much to do, and the 100 plus days I've played so far don't come close to covering all the content available. I haven't been this excited to play a survival game since the release of ARC, and rarely enjoy playing a game enough to go out of my way to do over-the-top projects and challenges after beating the base game. Palworld hits on a lot of aspects that make other games in its genre so great. The art style is reminiscent of Zelda, the necessity of grinding is far less daunting than something like Arc or Rust, which makes progression in this game incredibly satisfying, the movement and dodging mechanics are very clean and rewarding to learn, and the pals give it that nostalgic Pokemon feel. This game is also riddled with other quality of life things that are just not visible in other staples of the genre. For example, if there's a resource in your base, in one of your chests, you don't have to go grab it and physically bring it to a crafting location, you can just craft with the material. It's very simple, but it's an example of how well thought out their game is and how seamless it is to play. Palworld's brilliant concept lit the fire in me to push this game's limits. I have hundreds of hours worth of ideas for things to mess around with in this game, and no content updates have even come out yet. I could name off the top of my head 10 different things I could do inside of Palworld right now that I could genuinely enjoy doing for the next few hours. Exploring the world was my favorite thing to do. Fighting bosses while underleveled was always very rewarding as I learned attack patterns and mastered the dodging. I liked building a base in a way that maximized efficiency to the best of my ability. I loved breeding for hours just to optimize that last 10% of stats. You may be thinking to yourself, well, he just said all that stuff he loves about the game in the past tense. Is he even playing anymore? I am, and I'm still loving the game as much as when I started. I'm now just enjoying completing the pal deck, spending endless hours creating perfect pals for the multiple different teams I want to make, and working towards making even more efficient automated bases. There's a million things to do in this game, and it really has me excited to play more of it every single day. That was long-winded, but there are just so many positive features to cover inside of this game. Let's get into the cons now to keep things as objective as possible. After I just went on such an uplifting tangent about the way this game was intelligently crafted, you'd imagine my answer to the original question of this video is clear. But this discussion is not just as simple as game fun, must play. While this game has a lot of amazing features in it, there are some major flaws that I need to address to give you a full picture before you make a final decision. The most concerning thing about this game is its optimization. I played the majority of my 100 days with friends on an undedicated server, and there were pretty constant issues, such as desync, glitches, and frame lag. This problem is most apparent when you're in a base with 15 pals running around like headless chickens. While they have began fixing these optimization issues, I believe they are a long way away from making the game as optimized as I'd like it to be. My major issue with Palworld in its current state, however, is its severely limiting player cap of 4. That's a big flaw, as I doubt any group with more than 4 people wants to be forced to go out of their way to pay for and set up a dedicated server that has the same optimization issues I mentioned earlier. Until this cap is increased, I think it's a very valid deal breaker for certain groups of people. Other issues are less severe and more subtle, so I'll rattle them off here and leave the discussion about these topics for future time. I can't see the PvP vision the devs want to branch out to. The combat just isn't something I see as ever being balanced. It is so common that pals get stuck on literally nothing, and delicate tasks amongst themselves in ways that feels like it couldn't be less optimal. There's a bunch of other stupid things with the AI too, like bosses getting bugged out and resetting to full HP, raids not working, etc. I'm sure you noticed how flawed it can be in certain moments from the background of the video in this section. There have been a lot of bugs. For example, I've been sent through the floor on multiple occasions while fighting a multitude of different pals, and the obvious and most well-known one, the Lift Monk effigies not actually working for well over a week. This example embodies everything I'm talking about. In this situation, me and my friend have spent over 30 minutes whittling down the health of a Frostallion, a legendary pal, to catch it. After we spent all that time fighting it, it glitched up into the air and died. This stuff isn't super common, but it is really frustrating when it does happen. Generally speaking, this game's many bugs are all super minor and at worst an inconvenience, but they can definitely impact the player experience for less patient players. It makes me feel like the release may have been a bit rushed, which is okay as long as they keep up with fixing issues and fleshing out portions of the game they didn't allocate as much time to pre-launch. Plus, a bug every now and then can make the final result even more satisfying. All of the previous concerns boil down to the major concern I have with this game: the devs. Let me get this straight. I genuinely believe Pocket Pair is a well-intentioned company and want this game to be enjoyable for everyone. This shines through in their great communication with fans and appreciative messages for the success this game has had. That being said, I am concerned they may not be able to keep up with the demand by themselves, and I'm worried about them potentially trying to spread this game too thin. Trying to cram all your ideas into one product just doesn't work. Fixing bugs and issues should be equally important to adding new content. One game cannot please everyone, and trying to do so can make a game lose its charm quickly. Those are the only things I've taken issue with while playing Palworld. If I missed anything major in regards to this game's issues, please feel free to let me know in the comments. Now that you know my opinions on Palworld as a decently experienced player, let's take a moment to see what the general public thinks of the game. The hype surrounding Palworld's gameplay is not simply because of recency bias or lack of other options in the genre. Ark Survival Ascended and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were both released this year and performed significantly worse than Palworld. On Steam, the game has reviews that are very in line with what I've been saying throughout this video. The game has about 230,000 reviews so far, and nearly 220,000 of them are positive. This metric is incredibly impressive, and the theme of these positive reviews is clear. Not only is it selling at an unheard rate, but it's exceeding gamers' already high expectations. The message being spread in these positive reviews say how refreshing this is compared to the stale genre that has been Pokemon over the past few years. People love exploring, the art and world style, the combat mechanics, the ability to change the rates to fit the level of grindiness they desire, and the non-linear objectives. There are a million ways to beat the game of Palworld, and people love the ability to play a game multiple times in different ways. There was much more discussed, but these are the main points covered by a large sum of reviews I read online. The sales and reviews metrics clearly assert that Palworld is not a game in Pokemon Shadow. It's not just a ripoff, a cash grab. It wasn't made in a half-assed fashion. Even the negative reviews say this game has a lot of charm. On the topic of negative reviews, the most common criticisms are very clear. The bugs, extreme lack of polish in certain portions of the game, and AI are people's biggest problems. Server limitations and grindiness in some stretches of the game are also regularly mentioned concerns. In my opinion, the grindiness arguments are somewhat dumb due to there being adjustable rates for XP and farming speed, but the other concerns discussed are valid. The other complaint I found was a few people said the game just wasn't for them. It was boring. Besides the boring complaint, everything mentioned in these reviews will be fixed or at least improved upon with time. That being said, 95% positive reviews speaks volumes to the quality of experience that Palworld offers and confirms I wasn't being over the top in my praises of this game earlier in this video. Now that everything I could use to answer this question is out on the table, it's time for the final verdict. I think Palworld is absolutely worth it for most people. It's especially worth it if your concern is with the game being taken down. That just isn't gonna happen. If the roadmap of the game or the developers concern you like they do me, consider this. While this may be bold, and I will admit potentially recency bias, I think if the game was never updated from this point forward, it would still be worth $30. Even if they added less favorable content in the future, and don't fix the server issues, bugs, and mediocre optimization, the game is still fun and has a load of things you can do inside of it. If you play 100 hours of this game and just play through catching every pal and beating every boss, I believe you'll be satisfied with your investment. So yes, for the majority of players, I think Palworld is absolutely worth the money. If you enjoyed and want to see useful tutorials and insane challenges inside of Palworld, stay tuned. This is a new channel and I appreciate any support you can give, whether it's liking, subscribing, or any feedback on how I can improve my future videos would be appreciated. Thanks for watching, this has been Jace, and I hope to see you again soon.